Goals in life are important to have. Do you have goals? Have you reached some of them yet? Amelia Earhart had an impact on many people to live out their dreams and to reach their goals. I am privileged to share with you about Amelia Earhart's life and the way that she reached her goals. Amelia Earhart was an amazing woman. Her early years were full of adventure and excitement. She was born in Kansas on July 24th in 1897. She had one younger sister named Meryl. In 1918, during World War I, at the age of 21, she moved with her sister to Canada and became a nurse's aide. 2 years later, Amelia took her first plane ride in California at an air show, and she loved every minute. This became her goal, was to fly. In 1921, she took her first flying lessons with a female pilot, Netta Snook. She also bought her first plane, she received her pilot's license, and she also became the first woman for a record for high flying, which was at 14,000 feet, which is about 3 miles high. Flying became too expensive after a while, so she had to stop, but she decided to move to Massachusetts after her parents got divorced in 1924. 2 years later, she became a social worker and worked at the Dennison House in Boston. She absolutely loved her job working with these immigrant children, but she still managed to find time to fly. One day in April 1928, a man called her after hearing about her, and he asked her if she would like to be a passenger on the plane, the Friendship, that would fly across the Atlantic Ocean. Thrilled, she accepted. Even though she was just going to be a passenger, she would love it. There was competition against other women to be the first female to cross the Atlantic Ocean. And there were hardships while crossing in the Atlantic, but she made it. She became the first woman to fly across the Atlantic, which took 20 hours and 40 minutes. Her life as a heroine then began. After crossing the Atlantic, Amelia was given honors by President Calvin Coolidge, and in 1929, she started a women's pilot club called the 99s. Amelia set another record. This time it was for speed, at 181.18 miles per hour. She was also encouraged to write a book about her adventures, and she did. She called it 20 hours and 40 minutes after the time it took to cross the Atlantic. She also went to New York and became a writer for the Cosmopolitan magazine, and she wrote about her goals, which were flying. In 1931, Amelia married George Putman, who promised to help and support her throughout her life about flying. Though she was 34 years old, she still had many big goals. She still wanted to fly across the Atlantic, but this time she wanted to do it by herself. So she bought a plane called Vega. Even with the rough weather and flames in the exhaust pipe, ice on her airplane's wings, and a leaky gas tank, she made it. And in 1932, she landed in Ireland and became the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic, but this time she made it in 14 hours and 52 minutes. Because of her great accomplishments, she was awarded by President Herbert Hoover the National Geographic Society's Gold Medal. She also got to have dinner at the White House with the president. She was invited to many parties, and at one party she even got to dance with the Prince of Wales. She wanted to set another record. She wasn't done yet. But first, she became a teacher at Purdue University in Indiana, teaching aviation, and she became known as the Flying Professor. Purdue gave Amelia a Lockheed Electra plane, which gave her the desire to fly all the way around the world. This had been done before, but it hadn't been done flying across the equator all the way around the world, and that was her goal. So on June 1st, 1937, Amelia and her navigator, Fred J. Noonan, started their trip around the world. However, 1 month and 1 day later into the trip, Amelia and Fred were sending messages back and forth to the Coast Guard ship, but the messages became unclear and tangled up. And the last message that they received from Amelia was, "We are running north and south." Amelia and Fred were never found, even though the U.S. Navy sent out ships and airplanes. Some believe that even though it was close to World War II, that some Japanese had shot them down. So on July 16th, 1937, Amelia Earhart was declared dead. And to sum everything up about her life, I wanted to share a little bit of her letter that she wrote to her husband George before she left on her flight around the world. She said, "I want to do it because I want to do it. Women must try to do things as men have tried. When they fail, their failure must be but a challenge to others." Just as Amelia hoped, now many women and men are working and striving high for goals, that they too might make an impression on the world.